My bid for the Current Events Hall of Fame is Brexit, because of the potential global impact it can make both economically and government-wise. To better understand Brexit and its potential impact, we must start from the beginning. It all began after World War II when the European Union was created to foster the idea that countries which trade together stay together. Today, the European Union is an economic and political partnership involving 28 European countries, using a single market that allows goods and people to move around like states in a country. Not too bad, right? Well, the UK, as of June 23, 2016, doesn't think so anymore. They believe the EU imposes too many rules on businesses and charges billions of pounds a year in membership fees for little in return. BBC News author Alex Hunt wrote an article on November 24, 2016 called Brexit All You Need to Know, in which he explained that 71.8% of the total voter population in the UK, which accounts for England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, decided to leave at 52% to 48% remain. The idea behind leaving is that the UK will take back full control of its own borders and reduce the number of people coming to live and work within them. This is really deja vu for the United States, who just elected a president who ran on this very idea. However, the process of Brexit actually taking place is totally unprecedented and is creating a cloud of uncertainty, much like the election of an unqualified candidate for president. You see, no other country has ever tried to leave the EU, so they only created an exit clause in 2009, and it's known as the Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which, when invoked, gives the country 2 years to agree to a set of terms for the split. Originally, Theresa May, the new Prime Minister of the UK, as the former resigned only days after losing the Remain vote, had thought she could invoke the article herself without the permission of Parliament, but the High Court ruled that inaccurate. The uncertainty and the questions that revolve around Brexit could extend the timeline. Although there are not any devastating blows to the UK economy in 2016 like expected after Brexit initially, besides the pound depreciating in value to a 30-year low, according to Alex Hunt from BBC News, it seems that keeping up that performance in 2017 will be increasingly harder as the prices for raw materials, the key variable input for producer prices, rose 4.6%, and that's coming from Jeff Smith of Fortune magazine. Overseas companies are increasing prices just in the UK to compensate for the drop in value of the pound. General Motors Europe President Carl Thomas Newman said prices of the models will rise by 2% at least, but the hike will still not be enough to recoup money loss, so we're taking some other measures, even the point of reducing some production. These rising prices will hurt car sales in the UK, Europe's second largest market after Germany. Even chocolate isn't exempt from the Brexit aftershocks, as the makers of Toblerone have increased the gap between the chocolate peaks as a UK-only cost-saving measure to reduce the weight of its bars to keep the prices the same, according to the UK Telegraph. Things would only get worse for the UK economically if a post-Brexit trade deal to stay in the European tariff-free trade market falls through. And due to globalization, there would be wide-range repercussions for every country remotely connected to the global financial market. Great Britain and the EU specifically, along with the global economy in general, are in for a period of prolonged uncertainty and instability that will not be resolved anytime soon, which is why I believe Brexit should be in the Current Events Hall of Fame. I also believe this is an important event to watch in the coming months and years, as the breaking of the EU treaty and alliance could have unpredictable fallouts, like Germany taking over as the main voice of the EU, worries The Economist. France has already seen protests calling for the quitting as well. Many other countries were probably just thinking about leaving, but didn't know how to. And now that the UK has asked to leave the dining room table, so can others, as they find an excuse without being yelled at by mum or being so highly publicized. One thing is for sure, the EU is one of the world's largest trading blocs, according to CNN Money, and breaking it apart will only lead to a lot of global uncertainty and a boatload of trade deals being reconstructed. Have I mentioned that with Brexit the EU loses its biggest military power, according to The Economist? Not good for a region which has already seen an increase of terror recently. This is especially horrible when we look at the fact that the EU has been on the forefront of the West's foreign and security policies, from concerns over a nuclear deal with Iran to the threat of radical Islamic terrorism, and even the imposition of sanctions against Russia. I mean, without Britain, it would be a lot harder for the EU to pull its global weight. Right now, a weakened Europe would be a big loss, seeing as they fall in a troubled neighborhood of countries all the way from Russia through Syria, including parts of northern Africa. We don't even have to add in the fact that Brexit could very well break up the United Kingdom itself. In the initial vote, Scotland's results were Remain 62% to 38% Leave, and that's coming from BBC News. They say consent is needed from the Scottish Parliament before the UK can actually trigger Brexit because of the significant changes it would make to their country. Northern Ireland also voted to remain in the EU at 55.8% to 44.2%, and that's according to Alex Hunt at BBC News. Northern Ireland, who has a Good Friday Agreement passed in 1998 with its people, says that they decide their constitutional future and nothing can change without their consent. Brexit would disturb those terms agreed upon in the agreement. It would also unsettle the peace progress that the EU has forged between Ireland and Britain over the years. The Economist said it best, there will always be an England but not necessarily a Great Britain. As time goes on and the actual terms of Brexit are spelled out between the UK and the EU, we will better understand the effects it will have on the economy, government, and future of Europe. Until then, we must sit back and watch as our friends across the pond make decisions that could impact our futures in international business, foreign policy, and connections. Current Events Hall of Fame should be able to find a place for Brexit somewhere.